I used to spend hundreds, yes, hundreds of dollars every single week on new comic books from the major two publishers. Shared universes are my thing, and I love everything about them. But it got to a point to where just too many versions of the same character were walking around.
You're lying! I'm Spider-Man!
You're a mistake!
Now, it's not to say that this was a new problem. It was just too much for me to couple with all the nonsense that was happening in comics at the time. Too many different realities and characters acting out of character. It was happening in the comics and when we'd see them in other adaptations, live action and such. I want to be very fair to the major publishers. Some of these characters were created in the 30s and 40s. None of their original creators could have imagined that they would be core pieces of a universe for 80 years. They could not have predicted that those characters would transcend comics and become part of the fabric of American culture. In order for your canon and continuity to be on point for that long, you'd have to take it into consideration from the start, and every creator would have to be in on it. So while I do believe that avoidable mistakes have been made by some of those newer creators, I must be mindful of just how long some of these characters have been around and the era that they were created in. That said, what I reject is that this must happen. When I created my company, Rippaverse Publishing, we launched a code of ethics. In that code of ethics, it mentions our commitment to canon and continuity. As some of you know, we brought in the Saska sisters as lore masters, and their job is to update our universe Bible and make sure nothing conflicts with it as new stories come in. Look, as more stories get told, we won't be perfect, but we can at least have a commitment to it and prioritize this. Now, when it came to the mainstream and you saw these odd depictions of characters, the excuse was always that it's a different universe. Worse, some would suggest that it absolutely needed to be changed in order to appeal to a wider audience. But I think people sleep on the importance of canon and continuity, and I'd argue that anybody trying to be an independent creator should pay attention to it because it can only benefit you. Nerd culture spaces care about this stuff. There's no such thing as small details. I'm not meaning like in the nitpick sense. I'm saying that a fan of something has that attention to detail. I understand that people have these big aspirations and will take the first Hollywood or mainstream deal, even if it means bastardizing their own characters. Sometimes it's for the big paycheck, other times it's just because they want more eyes on their creation. But it is rare that something is elevated due to some change in a new medium. Normies like whatever the end thing is, so a fundamental creative change is needless. My theory is that this is partially the reason why comics didn't get that big boost alongside the blockbuster movies. It's because people can see a character on the big screen and be intrigued by it, but when they finally go to the source material, they'll find that the character does not act, or in some cases even look like the character that they're supposed to be, or the one that they just saw. That gives them zero incentive to become nerds of this stuff. And again, good luck keeping up with it, even if they were genuinely intrigued. You'd have to get this big dry erase wall to try to connect the dots and explain to someone that wanted to really get in on that character. In my opinion, the focus on consistency helps create definitive versions of the characters. Fans holding you to a standard shouldn't be scary. It makes it fun and makes them more likely to support something out of the medium. So if your primary sale is comic books and you get the opportunity to make an animation, you end up being able to have one sell the other. This is what the East does so well with their manga and anime. I've always found it bizarre that the West prioritizes what looks cool or the ego of these new writers over general consistency. And as I said earlier, you don't have to be perfect. You will make mistakes, but I think your diehards appreciate this attempt. Paying attention to this shows the audience that you actually care and are invested in your creative projects. So I say, don't forget about the consistency of your characters and your world. Thanks for watching. Be sure to head over to rippaverse.com to check out our comic book company. We have books, plenty of merchandise, and even some glorious animations from Rippaverse Studios.